Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is all my video game pickups for the month of November 2025. I got some pretty cool stuff this month. Not a massive amount of things, but full disclosure on this, at the time of recording, I am recording before Black Friday, only due to scheduling conflicts, so my pile may be bigger after that. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know how that turns out. But that said, I got some cool stuff, and we're going to talk all about it. Before we do that, though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, and check out all my social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, my travel channel, etc. I appreciate the support on all those platforms. Thank you so much. Let's get on to it. But seriously, click in the description and follow me on stuff. It's like a click. It's easy. You can do it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Especially the travel channel. Like, why not? Come on. It's an entire other channel of content. Okay. All right. So, yeah, anyway, all the pickups for this month. First and foremost, I got this really cool N64. This was sent to me by Stone Age Gamer. I did a whole video on this. It's an HDMI modified one, custom designed by me using their website, which is the whole point of that video. But the reason I did that video, as I mentioned in there, was that this was a housewarming gift. That's the only reason Stone Age Gamer sent it to me. For those who don't know, the childhood home I grew up in, my mother owned that until the day she died a few years ago. And I had the misfortune of finding her. I don't want to talk about that. But after that, I inherited the house, and I had it, and while I was figuring out what to do with it, completely unrelated to anything, I was out of town, and a lamp in that house, which was not even on, exploded and effectively destroyed the house. So with insurance, thankfully, was there to cover it. By the way, that's a terrifying prospect, but it's a real thing. Like, the lamp is just plugged in, it's not on, it's sitting there for the better part of 30 plus years, and one day just explodes. Apparently the reason for that is something called arcing, where if you take like a power cable, you'll notice there's like two cables kind of meshed together. They basically send current one way, then to the device, then back around out to the wall. Apparently what can happen is sometimes the two cables can fuse together in the wrong spot, and if that happens, power kind of circulates and creates pressure like a water hose without you allowing to release it. If you ever turn on a water hose and then like fold it up and it starts like getting all weird, eventually it's going to pop. And that's effectively what happened in this case, thus mostly destroying my childhood home. But now that the house is basically rebuilt and I'm kind of making the decision that I'm going to mostly move to that, they were cool enough to send me this as a kind of just, housewarming gift. So this will be set up in my game room, of course. N64, awesome. HDMI modded, as I said before, but just like completely tailor-made to my custom choices, which is really very cool. So again, huge shout out to Stone Age Gamer. I'll put a link to the video before if you want to see how to like prepare your own one. I know a lot of people brought up the Hyperkin just dropped the Analog 64. Or was it Hyperkin that made that? I don't even remember who made that, but Analog 64, which apparently a lot of people really like, which is really cool. I don't have one, so I can't speak on it, but maybe one day. But either way, this thing is really awesome, and again, huge shout out to Stone Age Gamer. So after that, I do collect vinyl. I don't know if you guys know that about me, because I'm not really a music guy, but I do prefer vinyl as a format, because I do legitimately think it sounds better with the right setup. But I typically only pick up scores, not like actual individual artists or anything. But the scores I get are usually movie or video game or TV show based, etc. So this one showed up just before I started filming. Like this almost didn't make it into the video. I got this, and I was a little disappointed. This is Power Star Super Mario 64 Demastered. So I was like, oh cool, it's the Super Mario 64 score, which I love. I actually have a CD of that I picked up in Germany, an officially licensed CD. It sounds great. I ripped it to MP3s. I have it on an iPod. Yes, we're talking about this as if this conversation happened back in 2010. But yes, really, I did all that. But I was like, I prefer to have it on vinyl. So I saw that it existed, went ahead and picked it up. And while I enjoy this is not the official score. This is like somebody had access to the sheet music and then recreated it with an NES, probably because Nintendo did in no way endorse this, which I imagine is really the case here. So it sounds good, but it is sort of an interpretation as opposed to the original. Think of it as a cover, if you want to use music terms here. I enjoyed it, but if I knew what I knew now, I would not have bought it, to be completely frank. But it's fine. All the same, cool. All right, as for the rest of the video games, just a couple of miscellaneous ones that I got for various different circumstances throughout the month. First up, for the Xbox 360, Brave from the Disney Pixar movie. So I actually got this at a Goodwill. We were out, buddies of mine were all like out thrifting and stuff, and it was the usual fare that you keep finding. It's just, you know, whatever, sports game this, whatever, Wii Fit, etc. Which I know you think I could use, but let's be realistic here. But they had Brave, and I was like, oh cool, I actually want that, because one of my sub goals on the 360, because I have no designs on a full set for that system, is to get like every Disney Pixar movie game. I didn't even know there was a Brave game, so I haven't done like a full list of it, but yeah, I was like, all right, cool. We just accidentally chipped one off. It was a couple of bucks, you know, it's Goodwill. And it's minty, too. Like, whoever had it, I assume didn't really ever play it. I don't think it's going to be a particularly good game, but that's... Since when does that matter when you buy video games? All right. Next up, this one was a gift from my buddy Joseph the Heart-Off Destroyer, who you guys may know if you watch some of the videos, particularly on my travel channel, but if you watch some of the travel videos here, like going to Japan and video game hunting and stuff, he's the guy with the crappy tiny little baby car that he thought adults should own. It's like a Power Wheel. It's for children, but he uses it as a real vehicle, and he makes everyone else suffer for it. Anywho, he's a very nice gentleman outside of his strange choices, but he was cool enough to... Okay, Joseph's a strange guy. I'm just going to be honest with you. And so he's a big fan of the Neo Geo CD, as am I. But in true Joseph fashion, he went to go buy a new release, and he bought it 4 times, because I don't know if he did it by mistake or if he forgot that he bought it 4 times. Either way, he hooked me up with a copy of it. It is a repro. It is not an original pressing, but it's cool all the same. This is Shinobi for the Neo Geo CD. Now, Shinobi is, of course, the actual Sega title. I don't know what version of this game it actually was originally, but somebody basically took, deep dived it and converted it over to Neo Geo hardware, and specifically Neo Geo CD, which is really neat. However, this is not a pressed release because nothing about it is official, nor would the guys who made this have any right to sell it, at least through a pressing. So this is a CDR, but it's, got like a nice shiny cover. Is this something I would have bought? No. But as a free gift from Joseph, it's a cool thing to add to my Neo Geo CD collection, but by no means an official product. But it does exist. Apparently there are a few of these conversions, but my thing is, I'm all for supporting Neo Geo CD indies, but the same rule of Dreamcast applies. It has to be a pressed disc. This is just a bonus to throw in. Then I picked up one that threw my friends off a little bit, because they're like, I've never seen you pick up a game for that system, but here it is. For the PS1, which is a system I love, I just don't really collect much for it, Toy Story Racer. Kind of fell into the same vein as this. I had no idea that there was a Toy Story Racer game on PS1. Disney Pixar stuff, I love it. But yeah, this game apparently only existed on PS1 and like Game Boy Color. But I simply never knew about it. Now, is it a particularly good game? Probably not, but I'm okay with that. But yeah, it's still very cool to pick up. Toy Story has had some really good games, though, shockingly. And for those who like Toy Story 2 for like the Dreamcast, FYI, that is a pretty good game. And you're still into the Dreamcast at all? Very, very recently, like maybe a month or 2 ago, some guy, I don't know who, but we put the link to it in my my Discord server. He went into the game and like cleaned up the controls so that it controls more. It controls better, I guess, lack of a better way of putting it. I guess he was saying that the game was meant to be pressure sensitive, but the Dreamcast version disabled that, making it much harder to control. So he went in and corrected it. So if you want to pick up that version of the game, which is just an ISO effectively, you can try it out and see how much better that version plays now. Anywho, just throwing that out there. Okay, moving on. For the Xbox One/Series X, I did pick up, these are my Black Friday pickups, again, pre-actual Black Friday. These were both like crazy on sale over at Amazon. Sonic Origins Plus, this is only $10, brand new. Basically, this is yet another Sega Genesis compilation of Sonic games. So for them to do that again at this point was just like, really? But it's got some extra cool stuff in it. They added Amy Rose as a playable character to like all the games, which is kind of fascinating. The Game Gear stuff is in there. It wasn't like, honestly, anything I really particularly needed, but it was cool. And for $10, it's like, whatever, fine, I'm going to get it and just kind of support my boys over at Sega. And within the same vein, I finally got Sonic and Shadow Generations. You guys know me. I love my Sonic stuff. Admittedly, I haven't played as much of it as I should have in the last few years, but I'm still very much a fan. Although it is... You guys want an old people moment right now? There's an entire generation of kids that know Sonic more as a movie character than a video game character. Now, does that one hurt more, or does knowledge that Sonic has been a third-party character longer than he was ever a first-party character? Meaning, he was on Sega hardware for about 10 years, but he's been off Sega hardware for like 20 plus. Oof. Anywho, so I got that. Again, those are still sealed. I haven't even opened them yet, but I'll get around to them. Okay, next up, small little pile here, but interesting all the same. Going back to that fire I was talking about, the stuff that survived that fire, which was primarily in my basement at the time, there was a company that came and took a lot of it to clean it and give it back to me. They did that very recently. And so in that process, you get back a lot of stuff that I had never dealt with, like after my mom's death in the first place. And a lot of it was like books. I don't really read novels, but I inherited a bunch of them from her, from my sister who didn't want them. And then going back to my grandparents had stuff in there. So it's like, we basically just amassed all the books. I took it over to Half Price Books and I was like, what will you give me for this? And it's Half Price Books. They're not going to give you a whole lot, but whatever. So I took the money they offered me and I was like, I'll get some store credit and then I will pick up some stuff. I still have like $86 worth of store credit. But whatever, I picked up some stuff while I was there. For the OG Xbox, from there, the OG Xbox is probably the last system I will ever actively try to get a full collection for. I'm very much narrowing in. I didn't realize how close I was to that until relatively recently. It's like probably like 75 titles left out of 1,000, which is pretty awesome. But only, I got 2 here. And I think somebody traded both these in at the same time, at least that'll be my guess. We have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Battle Nexus and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Mutant Nightmare. These are based on the 2003 show. I've never played these, but I needed them. And for, significant franchise like that, it was nice to actually just find that in the wild. So that was pretty cool. Next up, also at Half Price Books, this one is cool to pick up because I talked about this in my NES video I did a couple months ago. I did a video talking about the 40th anniversary of the NES. And what I was saying in that is that the NES was the first video game console I ever saw. It wasn't the first one I ever played, but it was the first one I ever saw. My cousins had brought it over probably in like 1989, something like that. And they went to the basement and they're playing it. And they're playing this one game, and I didn't know what I was even seeing because I was only like 3 years old, so I could barely process what was happening. But I remember going down there and like watching this and just being like blown away by the idea that the TV is doing stuff because they're telling it to. Like, it was just wow. And the game that they had, unfortunately, did not end up in my possession later. I thought it did, because eventually my cousin gave me that NES along with a bunch of games. But this one was not included, so I felt like I had to right that wrong. And that is Paperboy. Now, obviously it's not this copy unless I just won a really ridiculous lottery by accident. But this is the first video game I ever saw in my entire life, ever, be played, is Paperboy. Now, obviously it's not that original copy, again, unless I won a ridiculous lottery of odds, which I wouldn't even know if I did. But that is kind of cool to me. Like, for a hot minute, and when I mean to say that, I mean like for literally years, maybe over 10 years, I actually thought this was in the collection already because of him, but turns out it wasn't. And so I had to right that wrong, and when I saw it at Price Books, I was like, yeah, that's got to come with me. So this is not even a game I particularly really care about that much as far as like the actual game, but to own it because it is one of my earliest memories, and the fact that it is without doubt the first video game I ever saw played. That is a cool thing for me to have. So, yeah, I got that. And lastly, we got 2 things here. Both of these items, well, actually, there's one more thing after that. But that was just kind of a bonus. These 2 items got their own separate video, or will, I should say. So you can stay tuned to that. But first up, we have the Retro Fighters Xbox 360 controller, namely the Hunter 360. I showed this in my 20th anniversary of the Xbox 360, but basically it's a brand new controller by Retro Fighters. And like I said, this will get its own video, so you'll get all the information at that time. But if you want to check it out, again, I'll put a link in the description to Retro Fighters, and you can pick that up. And then finally, this also will get its own video, which I already filmed, I have to be honest with you, just for logistics reasons. But this is the Atari 2600 Pac-Man edition, which is a full version of the console. the Atari 2600 Plus, which is capable of playing 2600 games as well as 7800 games, and includes its own new iteration of Pac-Man, which is really very cool. And Atari sent that to me, again, for review purposes, which was really cool. So stay tuned for the videos on both of those. They're coming up. But lastly, there is one thing I want to show you guys before we wrap up here. I've told this story before, but it's finally completed, so I need to talk about it. So years ago, I went to, I think it was E3 2019. Yeah, it was 2019 because it was the year the Toronto Raptors were taking on the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. That's actually significant. So, story time, okay? I was contacted before E3 by AverMedia. Now, AverMedia makes like microphones and capture devices and cameras and things like that. And they saw my name on the registry for E3. So they basically reached out and said, hey, if you're going to be there, stop by our booth and, we'll see if we can help each other type of thing. I was like, okay, cool. Schmoozing. And I respond to the dude's email. Very nice guy. And it went from like mass email to like human being interaction, which was cool. And I told him like, yeah, I'll be there. I think he was a little surprised I had responded so quickly and so personably because he was like, oh, cool. Like I haven't even left the office yet. Tell you what, I'll like gather a gift package and I'll just meet up with you somewhere. I was like, all right, cool. So I communicated with him again and he's like, yeah, I'm down in my hotel in Los Angeles and I was in my hotel a few blocks away that Ubisoft had put me in. And so I was like, yeah, I got nothing better to do. Let's hang out and we'll talk shop, So I go over to his hotel into the lobby and up there on the TV is the NBA Finals. Toronto Raptors versus Golden State Warriors. I was all Team Toronto. I was like, I want the Raptors to win this. I do not like the Warriors. I don't hate the Warriors. They're just not my team. And I was getting kind of tired of the Warriors. And Toronto, I love that city, and they deserve to win. So I was like, yeah, let's. And they put it all in by trading DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, and he ditched him as soon as they won a title. And now he's all, if anybody at all follows the NBA, that guy's a scandal machine. Anyway, so I'm watching this game, I'm into it, and then he comes downstairs, we meet for a second, and we're chatting for a second, and every once in a while I catch his eye, kind of like looking at the game, and I'm looking at the game, he catches me doing that, and eventually I break him like, hey, look, we both clearly want to watch this game, why don't we do that, and then we'll talk. He's like, hey, yes. So we sit down, he's all in for the Warriors, because he's from San Francisco, it made perfect sense. The Raptors end up winning the game, it wasn't the end of the series, but it was cool. And it was like, so we bonded over basketball, right? So we talk a little shop, and then we talk some basketball. Now, the only reason this matters is we're just chit-chatting, and he's like, yeah, I actually, because I thought he just worked for AverMedia for years. He's like, no, I work here now, but he's like, this is not how I started. He's like, I'm like, oh, so what have you been doing? He's like, well, my biggest contribution is I technically created EA Sports. And I was like, it's in the game? You did that? He's like, well, EA Sports did not turn into what I envisioned. And he's like, it's just like a roster update every year with like simulators of sports games, etc. He's like, not what I envisioned. What I envisioned when I created it was making off-brand sporting games using sports figures. So like platformers starring, various gamers, or RPGs starring like, a football player or something like that. But he's like, we only really made one game and then like we were forced to change the way the model worked. And he's like, but nobody's ever heard of it. I went, Michael Jordan, Chaos in the Windy City. And he goes, like I broke his mind because he was just like, how did you know that? Like, nobody has ever heard of that game. And I was just like, dude, I'm from Chicago. So, like, I'm also big into retro gaming. So, like, it was just, my thing. And he's like, wow, man. He's like, I've never had anybody even talk to about this game before. And so, because the game was not good. I remember renting it when it came out. It was not very good. Michael Jordan throwing basketballs at zombies and stuff. It's weird. Well, mummies, more accurately. Anywho, so we're just chatting over that. And then he tells me, he's like, yeah, so he's like, we got to meet Michael, which was really cool. He's like, Michael came in for a photo shoot for us for 1 hour. So we took all the photos for the poster art and like the cover of Michael standing there like doing this thing with two basketballs. One's burning, one's frozen, like all that stuff. He's like, he came in, took some photos with us, signed a couple things, and then he was gone. Never saw him again. But we had picked out some clothes for him. So we had like a white shirt for him and a black pair of shorts. And he's like, after it was over, my boss kept the shirt, but I got to keep the shorts. And I was like, that's awesome. You had Michael's shorts? He's like, I've still got them. And I was like, oh, that's cool. They like framed somewhere or something like that? And he's like, no, he's like, they're just like in a bin somewhere. And I was like, bro, you gotta do something with that. And he's like, do you want them? I initially said no, but like a couple of years, no joke, a couple of years went by, and I eventually reached out to him again because I asked him, like, do you still have those? He's like, yeah. And he's like, and I was like, you sure, does your offer still stand? He's like, it's yours. And he just shipped them out. And they arrived. I showed them to you guys. It was awesome. Now, what does this have to do with video games? Well, they were part of a video game, technically. But if you guys have been following this little journey of mine, I've been looking for a clean copy of the game, a clean copy of the box, all that sort of stuff. And then the idea was that once it was all bundled together, I would go and have it framed. Over the years, I have managed to get every single one of the necessary pieces. And only very recently did I finally successfully go out and get it framed. And here she is. Now, granted, as you can see, it's still wrapped up from the way the framing company did it, which is really very cool. But man, it looks so good. It's got basketball lining, red lining, black lining to look good. Sorry if you hear sirens. I think the cops don't like that I have Michael Jordan shorts without paying for it. But anywho, but huge shout out to my buddy David, because he's the guy who sent me those. And yeah, that's like the coolest thing. I'm going to have it displayed somewhere in my house in the final version of it, obviously without all the wrapping on it. But yeah, it's done now, guys, and it's awesome. So that will do it. So thank you, David, for making that possible. Obviously, thank you to Retro Fighters for sending this in. Thank you to Atari for this. Thank you to Joseph the Heart Off Destroyer. I guess sort of half-price books, even though technically, yeah, whatever. And Stone Age Gamer for hooking me up with this. Again, links in the description if you want to check out any of this stuff. Thank you guys very much for watching. Please do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Check out all the social media stuff, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, etc. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.